Hi and welcome to our first virtual mental health awareness week at More Yoga. I am thrilled and delighted to be joined by Philli Boyle, who is one of the directors at Choose Love today. Hi Philli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Very well. The sun is shining and it's Friday, so yeah, good.
Brilliant. Positive news. So today we're going to be talking about kindness and kind of how kindness can impact your mental health, as well as how we can practice more kindness towards others during this time as well. So Philli, what does kindness mean to you, and how do you kind of practice it day to day?
I think kindness is the kind of very innate, a very innate kind of compulsion that actually we all have inside us to treat other people in a loving and respectful way.
Yeah.
And I think that everyday life can kind of make a bit of a barrier between us and us being able to just be our, kind of kind selves, like true kind selves. And so I think that this current time that we're in is actually showing such a resurgence, like we're seeing such a resurgence in kindness, because people have got less stuff going on, less stuff to do, less kind of places to go.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been really feeling a lot, and in my kind of day-to-day work, I've got the hugest honor and privilege of doing my job and just feeling that outpouring of kindness basically every day. That's from the people who are volunteering, to people who are donating, to people setting up like the most beautiful community fundraising initiatives, yoga classes, meditation, making beautiful embroidered face masks and giving us the proceeds, doing drop-offs of socially distant kind of food drop-offs to neighbors. And it's kind of, it does feel like we're in a bit of a Choose Love kind of moment, and the kindness moment, I think.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. So have you seen a big difference in kind of people getting involved with Choose Love during lockdown?
Yeah, people, I think when it all first started, we were quite, well, not quite nervous. We were like incredibly worried about the potentially devastating effects that this pandemic could have were it to break out in some of the camps where we're working, especially the really overcrowded ones on places like the Greek islands.
Yeah.
Where there's just no ability for people to self-isolate, where there's one tap for every 1,300 people in the camp on Lesbos. And so keeping clean and isolating, locking down is just not an option in those places. And so we knew that we were going to have to fund a huge amount of extra work via our partners to make sure that there was enough PPE for the tens of thousands of people, that so everyone has good access to soap, that we installed more taps, that there were medical professionals available. In a lot of the camps there's little or no access at all to medical care, so paying for teams of doctors, buying ventilators, in places where there just isn't a ventilator available for the communities there. And like building makeshift clinics, building shelters where people can self-isolate if they're sick, and just real sort of emergency, like emergency response on quite a big scale, both kind of prevention and also preparing for outbreaks, which hopefully will not happen. So far it has been less terrible than we expected, because everyone has been doing so brilliantly with all the prevention measures that have been put in place. But so we knew that this was going to be a huge endeavor, and we were worried that because people in refugee camps are out of sight, we don't see them in the press, then they could of course be out of mind, especially at a time when everyone is having their own struggles, everyone is going through their own difficult situations, whatever those might look like, unique to each person. And so like the feeling of kind of the gradual like realization that actually not only were people still thinking about people who had been displaced, refugees and displaced people, but actually it was increasing. People were intuitively knowing that there were people experiencing things much more terrifying and hard than they were. People who I mean, and we were talking about it, but there was like a huge surge in support. People, just maybe like 10 or 15 different initiatives are coming up every day that we're seeing on Instagram. People saying, I'm doing this to fundraise for help refugees. I'm giving 20% of my the profits from my photographs or my artworks or my jewelry, every day something. And this is something we've seen over the 4.5 years, but it's increased 100-fold.
That's amazing. I think it's really given people time to reflect and kind of be really grateful for all the things that we do have during this time as well. So that's really brilliant to hear. I'm so glad that that's happening. It's really encouraging, really encouraging.
It really is. It feels like it feels like real hope for humanity, honestly, because when things have gotten really tough and quite scary, people have stepped up, and people have stepped up and looked outward and connected with their fellow humans, and in like the most beautiful and proactive ways.
And it kind of feels like that's become a really big thing. One of the positives that's really come out of COVID-19 seems to be this overriding theme of people coming together during this time, which is really actually an amazing thing for us to take away, and hopefully to kind of take out of this as well and not forget about. So would you say that there's a kind of correlation between mental health and giving back and kind of practicing kindness to other people?
Yeah, I do think so, definitely. I think people, and I think one of the things that we've always tried to harness, like with Choose Love as the kind of brand that we kind of put out into the world, is that those kind of acts of care and kindness, they can come from a place of joy and empowerment and an understanding of the inequalities and the injustices that are in the world. It's important to understand that. But when you kind of do and make an act of kindness towards someone else, it doesn't have to be from a place of guilt or shame about any sort of anything. It can just be the empowerment of, I'm going to do this thing, and that's going to bring me joy, and that's going to be putting something positive and loving and kind out into the world that's going to do something good for another human. But I also think that the kindness to yourself is also really important. I think that we can tend towards that self flagellation and giving because of guilt, and I think trying to reframe that for ourselves and look after ourselves, and then have it come from a place of positivity. So we've launched this campaign yesterday called Around the World in 40 Days. And basically the idea is, because we're all quite isolated at the moment, some of us are feeling very isolated, and lots of people are not able to do a lot of the fun stuff they had planned. We are setting about moving the 24,901 miles around the world, metaphorically together. So basically, it should be good. So basically people can pledge however many miles. So they've got 40 days, which start on Saturday the 23rd. And you can walk, you can run, you can roll, you can cycle, you can do
roll, skip.
20 minutes of home exercise. Yeah, exactly. Anything. Yeah, you could do yoga. 20 minutes of home exercise equals 1 mile.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. That's
so I think that's the sort of thing. It's and people have connected with it so beautifully already. There's a 2-year-old who's going to be walking 20 miles.
Oh, I love that. That's what a campaign. What a brilliant campaign. That's such a nice way to bring people together, even when we might not physically be, together, to actually be part of something. And I know we've always felt in More Yoga that actually community is such an important part of positive mental health, and of kind of having a well-rounded, holistic well-being, feeling that you're part of something. I'm sure at Choose Love that must be a real thing for your community, that people love to be a part of it.
I think so, and I think it's having loads of different ways that you can get involved and you can help. And also like with More Yoga, we like to put out messages, you know, to the community on our social media that are kind of like inspiring, you know, information and news, but also things that are inspiring and uplifting, and kind of celebrate people being brilliant, you know, as
Yeah.
well as kind of sometimes having to give the like really like unpleasant and you know, unfair truths, but like, you know, combining that with like, these are the ways that we can all get involved and help. Like, it is helpful to write to your MP, it is
Yeah.
helpful to sign this petition, to share this on socials, you know, and feeling like there's all wearing Choose Love, you know,
Yeah.
that's a donation to us, you're also making a big statement to the world. So yeah.
Amazing. And how do you, in your role, which must be so demanding, especially at the moment, how do you practice self-care? Are there kind of different things you try to do to look after yourself as well?
Definitely, I'm all about self-care in our team, everyone will tell you. uh, yeah, I practice yoga most days. I meditate probably 2 or 3 times a week. I'd like to do more. um, I always do something now, because I'm working from home. I always try and do something to like mark the beginning and the end of the day. So whether that's like going for a quick walk, or doing some yoga, or you or even just like dancing around. Like a few times I just put music on and just like danced around the living room, and just, you know, do something to so that there's something to break up the day when you're in the same kind of space a lot of the time. And I've been finding that really, really helpful. Also saying no to some calls. You know, you don't have to do Zoom calls all the time.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's quite
definitely.
good.
Having boundaries, I think, is such an
Yeah.
important part of looking after yourself and practicing self-care.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Oh, amazing. And kind of, how would you, if for people watching, who are thinking that they'd love to get involved with Choose Love, what would your kind of advice be for somebody who would like to get involved and like to give back and kind of support others?
Well, there's loads of ways. Round the World in 40 Days is
Yeah,
obviously one
that's
of them.
brilliant.
Yeah, so you can sign up via our website. You can find it, or you can, which is helprefugees.org, or you can find us. We're at Choose Love on Instagram, and on Twitter. And yeah, so you can sign up, pledge miles, get involved. We'll travel around the world together. And then you can follow us on socials. Definitely, like, we're always sharing whenever there are things that need to be done, when there's volunteers needed, actions that we can come together on when we can finally come back together. It's kind of a good source of information if you are interested to know what's going on within the situation for refugees globally, because there isn't a lot of press about that.
No,
Um,
it's often kind of
and
hidden in the press, isn't it? I'd say it's never given
yeah,
enough air.
yeah, exactly. And then we've got our emergency appeal, again, on our website, helprefugees.org, or you can find on our socials channels, helping us to respond to this pandemic, helping us prepare, helping us try and prevent, and really try to do what we can to stop the outbreaks happening, but be ready for, if they do occur, being able to make sure that people can get the care that they need. That is obviously just the most important thing.
Mm.
So any and all of those are wonderful.
Brilliant. There's so many ways, so many ways. I love the 40 days campaign. That's brilliant, and such
Oh,
a great way
oh,
for
I forgot.
people.
Sorry, I forgot about the merch as well. The Choose Love merch, which
Yeah,
is on ASOS.
I love it. And that's on ASOS and on your
Yeah,
website and a few different places as well.
yeah. ASOS is probably the best place, but yeah, you can find us everywhere.
Cool. And so the final thing I would love to ask you is, the reason that they kind of changed the theme for Mental Health Awareness Week to kindness this year is because they were really keen on opening up a discussion about kind of the world we want to create after the pandemic. Do you think, from your work and for yourself as well, do you think that kindness really could change the world if we kind of take all these things we've learned and take them out with us after lockdown, after coming through this?
Yeah, I think that if we can tap into our inner kindness,
Mm.
and if we can see through the kind of the layers of that we kind of build up, that kind of sort of shield that from the outside world,
Yeah.
and if we can try to bring that kindness into all of our interactions, and that can be giving the benefit of the doubt, that can be being kind to ourselves, but definitely just in all of our interactions with other people. I think that that the way, the way you look at the world is through a lens of kindness, then I think, you know, anything is possible. Maybe we could even save the planet. You know,
Yes.
there's still hope.
I love that. I love the idea of seeing the world through a lens of kindness. What an amazing kind of takeaway for everybody listening as well, to try and see the world with kinder eyes, I think is a really, really beautiful kind of way to look at things as well. Thank you so much, Philli, for joining us today. We will put some links on all of our social media of how people can join those different campaigns and get involved as well. And we are finishing, well, not finishing, Mental Health Awareness Week will finish on Sunday, but on Friday we have our second virtual late night lock-in, and 25% of all the proceeds goes directly to Choose Love. So if anyone wants to join us, it's a night of yoga, psychology and sound healing that we run every month as a way of fundraising for Choose Love as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Philli. You are amazing, and please know that our community loves you and loves your work so much. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone else for joining as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Philli. Bye.